Richard Serra was one of the greatest artists of the last century. He was a man of extraordinary intelligence, incredible passion, conviction, somebody who actually rethought the very nature of sculpture. My name is Glenn Lowry. I'm the director of the Museum of Modern Art, and I'm here to talk about Equal by Richard Serra. There's something very bittersweet about sitting here next to Equal and thinking about Richard. He transformed the possibility of sculpture by realizing you could make new shapes and new forms that had never been conceived of before in the history of the world. I remember when I first saw Equal in 2015, I walked into the room and what I saw were these monumental forms that were both symmetrical and asymmetrical, whose weight you could feel and yet had a lightness of being. And there was something timeless about the space they created. And as I reflect on Richard's life and the many conversations we had, the many debates we had about what sculpture was, what life was, recognizing that he had made something in Equal that transcended himself. Sitting here now, what I think about is the many ways in which Richard was able to use weight, mass, form, heaviness, to express emotion, to express feelings, to make us think about the space we're in new and different ways. I feel Richard's presence in a very palpable way. One of the things Richard was extremely sensitive to is bodies. How does your body react to the presence of a form? And how does the weight of that form compel your body to adjust itself in space? It forces you to think about what we mean when we talk about equalness, equalness of our own space, equalness of who we are, equalness of the things we experience. And I think this is the inherent message Richard is playing with, that we shouldn't take things for granted, that things aren't what they always seem to be, and that we have agency in ourselves to think about that and to unpack the meanings that are embedded in those relationships. I find Equal a very calming piece. I find myself often in this room, not even intentionally. I'm walking through the museum and I'm drawn here, and I just sit and stand and look, and I watch visitors in here, and even people who were talking loudly and enjoying conversation. When they come in this room, they kind of slow down. There is a solemnity to the way these monumental forms define this space, and in a way help us center ourselves. He was a brilliant sculptor, but he was also a really deeply committed political activist and thought leader. And coming back to Equal, what I think of it as is a catalyst for a kind of meditation on who we are, where we are, and why we are on this planet.